We got national title talk, Ohio State versus Notre Dame, and we really appreciate Eric Boggs from the Ohio State podcast coming on. Was able to connect through the college huddle with him. How we doing today, Eric?
We're doing good, Trey. We're excited. It's a week away. We're trying to pace ourselves a little bit. We don't want to overdo it with excitement here on a Monday evening as we record this, Trey. So we're trying to pace ourselves, but we're doing well, man.
Oh yeah, big time win, 28-14 over our last hope from the SEC, Texas. They go down in flames. Really competitive game, and we'll dive into that. But impressive win against Texas. Was there really bad weather heading into that? I always heard that like it's going to be tough getting the some of the fans in, but maybe that was a last minute. Was the weather bad
I
at all there?
I think it was bad for Texas fans. They're not used to snow, so
Right.
we just kind of laughed it off. It was more about will our planes land in Dallas properly and everything else. I mean, we're used to driving in snow in Ohio, but we're built for that. So it didn't snow, I think, as much as they anticipated, and it didn't really have an effect. Obviously, on travel, being in AT&T Stadium in a dome had no zero effect on the game inside. What was going on inside, but for some of the fans, I didn't hear anything about no one having trouble getting there.
Yeah, I gotcha. I think I heard at the very last end ticket prices it was pretty cheap to get in if you could
They
make
did
it there.
drop a little bit. Yeah, I think so. I think some of the Texas fans were more, you know, concerned about their travel, 3 hours, from
Yeah,
Austin to Dallas, as it was for Ohio State fans.
right. But all in all, very competitive game. You can't say it wasn't a blowout. This thing was tight to the very end. One thing I kind of noticed was looks like both teams struggled running the ball. I think you guys, even though Junkins had 2 touchdowns, but 24 carries, 81 yards, and then for them, 29 carries for 58 yards. I think that was the recipe when Georgia beat them twice. They stopped the run, and then Quinn Ewers, he had a pretty good game, 283. But I want to know just because, man, that was last week when I was making my predicts. I don't know if they were just shedding it, but what do you think kind of happened with Jeremiah Smith, who's just a monster, getting shut down? I even read on Instagram or some video they favored like 3 guys over to his side. I just was shocked when it was 107 for 3 yards. I
Yeah,
thought he might have been
they
injured
ran
or something.
they ran zone. They bracketed them, and
Yeah.
they were daring us to take all the underneath stuff, and we did a good job at that. We just kept shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, as an Ohio State fan, I'm obviously going to be more biased and lean towards more of the program I follow and root for. And that being said, I would say there were times Texas shot themselves in the foot too. And I'm not going to try to be everything's scarlet and gray here, but from my perspective, Texas was daring us to be patient on offense. Are you willing to go third and short and drive it down the field and take everything that we're giving you? And for the most part, we did. But then we would kept stupid penalties, personal foul in the second drive that kind of stopped that from happening. False starts, um, always behind the chains in that aspect of things. And so that kind of affected the offense, I think, from that perspective. And then impatience. We did get impatient. We did make a mistake. And first drive, I think it was the first drive of the second half, we threw an interception trying to force the ball to Jeremiah Smith as opposed to just, dumping it off and taking 5-6 yards or whatever we needed to do there. And so hats off to Texas for having a great defensive scheme. They did well there. And they did shut down our running game. But to be fair, we haven't really ran the ball that great ever since we've suffered some injuries on the offensive line. We lost Jimmy Simmons, middle of the field, starting left tackle, middle of the season. That is in the Oregon game. We've had to make adjustments on at left tackle all season long. And then when we lost the Remington Trophy winner at center, now we've got to kick a guard in at center, and then we're basically starting too deep on our offensive line in several positions. Hats off to Donovan Jackson, our left guard, who kicked out to tackle and has done a phenomenal job at tackle. He's a little bit undersized, but he's really holding his own in this playoff. But we're not really able to get the push up the middle that we have in the past. and really, if we're going to run between the tackles, our best play is just go with the quarterback. I mean, that's essentially where we're at right now in this offense. But no, I mean, at this point, our 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 running backs, especially Travion Henderson, is a much more of a effective weapon in the passing department more than anything.
Hmm.
And so he's being utilized in that aspect of things as well. So, no, hats off to Texas. Great defensive scheme. They did what they were supposed to do, and in all honesty, we really followed the Georgia blueprint defensively and how to stop Texas, and it worked. So, thanks to the Bulldogs out there for that one.
Yeah, man, appreciate that. Like this game was tight, and I guess just watch from a neutral fan, like what was it? First and goal, second and goal, and the one, and they do that like long toss sweep.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
that was a bad decision. And I've a lot of people said, "Hey, why didn't you put in Arch Manning, let him run the football 3 times?"
yeah.
The one play he got in, he got absolutely lit up, and I've heard rumors that they took his helmet away from him.
Well,
He might have been concussed a little bit,
hmm.
so that might have been one of the reasons why you didn't see him in the goal line in that situation. But yeah, trying to run stretch on this defense is probably not your best decision there. Obviously, hindsight 2020. And then of course that sets up 2 plays later, the fourth down, and the rest is history.
Yep, great win for you guys. And then how about I forgot his name, the guy that got the fumble strips.
Oh, Jack Sawyer, Captain
How about
Captain
Jack
Jack.
Sawyer being roommates with Quinn Ewers
Yeah,
back in the
right.
day? Yeah. Is
Yeah.
he a legend now? Is he a Ohio State
Oh,
like defensive legend
yeah.
after that?
Of course, yeah. Like so on Sunday night, we tried to put that play in perspective, and one of our hosts is in his 50s. I'm in my 40s. Our other host is slightly, I think, 2 years younger than me, and we all have that play either as the second or third most, largest defensive play in Ohio State history in our
Oh,
lifetime. Um, the Maurice Claret strip in the 2002 national championship game is up there. For me personally, you have the Joey Bosa walk-off sack against Penn State in the 2014 national championship run. That's up there. You've got 2013 Tyvis Powell intercepting the 2-point conversion attempt by Michigan to secure the perfect season in 2013. The perfect run up to that point. They were perfect in 2012, and we're on a 23 game winning streak when that happened. That was a big play. This one's right up there, man. He's an absolute legend. He came back. Could have went to the NFL last year. Came back for a national championship on this run. He's the one who went after the Michigan flag on the 50-yard line when they tried to plant that after losing to them in our home field again. He's the catalyst of that. He's a Central Ohio Columbus boy. Went to Pickerington High School, and so yeah, like this was his dream to be a Buckeye, and to not achieve any of those things he set out to achieve, and to come back and not even beat the rival. Yeah, he took that personally, and he's went on a tear, and he has helped his draft status immensely. And the dude will never ever have to worry about buying a meal or a drink in Columbus, Ohio, ever again. That's for sure.
yeah, good for him. That was huge. Kind of like I text people. I was like, "That's the dagger right there. That's the game."
Yep.
Just great win for you guys, and your guys' defense has been impressive all year. So great win all around. And ever since I was really impressed in the Oregon game, you putting a beating on that and getting a little revenge. I was like, this team's scary right here. They're getting hot. You still got to play the games, but.
Right.
And then on the other side, Notre Dame ekes out the win and gets the win over Penn State. And man, that Drew Aller, I'm sure he did not want to throw that ball in that one of those last possessions because that was kind of it for them.
Another
So,
Ohio boy, by the way, Drew Aller from Northeast Ohio. Yeah, he's my heart breaks for the kid, but
yeah,
I'm starting to, and the saying around here in Columbus, Ohio, is that James Franklin's going to James Franklin himself.
right. Excellent.
He does. He just does. It's just what he does. Like every close game he coaches in, every team of equal or better talent that he's ever coached in since being the head coach at Penn State, he finds a way to screw the thing up. And whether he's calling the plays there or not, at the end of the day, he's the head coach, right?
Right.
And Drew Aller has really, in a lot of ways, put that offense on his back, and has really kind of carried them when they didn't have a lot else going on. Like, the guy's got no wide receivers,
Yeah.
none.
Right.
They can run the football all day long, but he's got no. The craziest stat in that game: no wide receivers had a reception. It was all
Wow.
running backs, tight ends.
Hmm.
0 receptions from their wide receivers in that game. That's crazy. That's insane if you think about it.
Well, at least they're catching the ball, and like the Georgia guys dropping the ball, and
Well,
then the tight ends could catch. But yeah, that is. James Franklin might need to get some guys in the portal or really recruit in the wide receiver room. It sounds like, right?
yeah, well, he tried. He took Julian Fleming from Ohio State. Julian
Yeah.
Fleming, a 5-star recruit, went to Ohio State. Never really did anything. He started. He played. He played and started. He was always third option, fourth option on the team as far as wide receiver. He goes back to his home state of Pennsylvania. They're thinking, we finally got our top wide receiver. And he's just had a terrible season.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think the offense at Penn State under James Franklin it's a run first offense. It's a northern style offense, if you will. We're gonna try to pound the rock and beat you with our horses up front. And for the longest time, Penn State didn't have any offensive line to speak of. They have a good offensive line now. They can run the football, but here it is. You've not addressed the thing that you need to win in that big game, which is, an effective passing attack. And so teams can just load the box on you, which is what Notre Dame did, and dare you to try to throw the football. And when they did, Drew Aller threw a bad pass, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Great win. I really thought Penn State kind of had it, and then that kind of broken coverage to was it Great House, which is it's a great name, by the way, wide receiver. But yeah, I mean they're just gutty and gritting it out, and they're resilient. So you gotta give it to them. Still think they're gonna run into you guys, but we'll get in that here in a little bit. But wanted to talk a little Georgia news because it was pretty big. If anybody's not been under a rock, but anyway, at least in Georgia circles, Carson Beck pulls from going in the draft and enters the transfer portal and heads to Miami. Everybody was all over this. Goes, everybody was saying Miami. He's got his TikTok girlfriend, the Hannah girl there. But
that's wild, man.
It was a little weird, but from a Georgia fan looking back on, I was a little surprised. Of course, I had to go read all the stuff online, but if you look at it, it's kind of like probably got a low draft status, maybe like third, fourth round. And probably had him and Georgia were a little sour. I think he didn't really show up to the practices. He was getting evaluated for his UCL injury. Kind of wasn't around the team. You can kind of tell his demeanor on the sideline, even after the touchdown against Notre Dame. He was just there. So, 24-3 as a starter. No problems, and it led him to a SEC championship this year. But I feel like it's just time for a change. And he's getting reported over $4 million with Miami. He's going to be there with his girlfriend. They need a quarterback. So I hope the best for him, but I just, it's time for change. And I think it's a win-win for each when you step back and look at it. So that's my thoughts. What did you think about it reading into it?
Sugar mama. That's what I read into it. He's got him a sugar mama in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
She making millions on TikTok, buddy. That's what's going on. He's got to be close to that. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
You know what? Hate the game, not the player, right? I think Miami here, they're getting a better option than what they currently had. Now, I think Cam Ward had a really good season, but when you walk out on your team at halftime of your bowl game, that to me serious character issue. I don't think Carson Beck's got a character issue that I know of. You would know it better than me. I mean, I don't think he does. I mean, seems like a leader to me.
Yeah. Yeah, he was no issues off the field. The kind of the flashy Lambo, ran things the wrong way. He was hanging out on TikTok with his girlfriend. I think as Georgia fans, like, hey, you're getting this NIL money. You seem distracted. Start throwing the picks. Of course, everybody's going to bury
you. Well with Miami, then, right? I mean,
as as a Georgia fan, hey, good luck going 8-4, 9-3 in the ACC. You know, that's what I say.
Hey, we gotta see. Here's what's great about this is the one thing that is great for people. Like people hate the NIL and they hate the transfer portal, and I get it. I'm old school, Trey. Like I still feel like if you're gonna commit to a school, then you need to honor your commitment. And like I'm just old school that way. But
Yeah, same
for
here.
us podcasters, this stuff is great, man. Because think about it, Miami might if they can sneak into the playoff next year, Georgia, Miami, and like the second round of the playoffs, man, like this would be ratings gold, dude. It gives us
It is.
tremendous content to talk about.
It would. It would definitely be a story, and I think Kirby Smart would have some insider information on how to stop him. I'm sure.
I think so. I
It
think
is.
he would have a I think he'd have a read on that one.
He would. But definitely, hey, win for everybody. Hope the best for him, and then maybe he can bump. Maybe he can do very well and improve and get better on his draft stock. Maybe he can do another Cam Ward. He definitely helped going from Washington State last year, potentially in the draft, and he pulled out. So yeah, win-win.
Yeah.
And then for all Georgia fans, probably needed drink one of these after hearing the Carson Beck news. 0 carbs, 0 sugar. Great for a tailgate, great for a round of golf and at the pool. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com, great sponsor of the show. To get 20% off, Doghouse 20. Again, that's Doghouse 20, 20% off. I personally like the watermelon. Also, Huckleberry and Elderberry is great. Great sponsor of the show. Check them out on Twitter, also on Instagram, and they are building their YouTube page up as well. So before we jump to the big time matchup, I did want to kind of ask, what do you think about the whole storyline of former, I think he was linebacker there, Marcus Freeman going against his old alma mater,
Yeah. So
Ohio State. So
I
what's
mean
the thoughts on
the
Marcus Freeman?
yeah, the reporter runs up to him after beating Penn State and throws a microphone in his face that says, "Give us your feelings about being the first African American coach to ever coach a national championship game." And he deflects to his team, which rightfully so. It's a great answer, but the bigger story here, man, he's the first ever former Ohio State Buckeye who's a head coach coaching in a national championship game. I don't know why they
Yeah.
missed that one. My goodness,
Yeah.
but um, no, like there is definitely a chip on the shoulder from Ohio State fans with him with the comments he made when he took over the job at Notre Dame. Now he goes in as defensive coordinator under Chip Kelly. He does a great job. I think it was 2 seasons, might have been only one, but he cut his teeth with Luke Fickell down in Cincinnati, down I-71 here in Ohio, down in Cincinnati. Before he went down to Cincinnati, became the defensive coordinator there. He was a grad assistant at Ohio State, so he is a former Ohio State coach, if you will. But his time under Jim Tressel as linebacker at Ohio State. Jim Tressel, of course, being his coaching tree. If you ever really want to dive into someone who has an amazing coaching tree, look up Coach Tressel, man. His coaching tree is just continues to grow and get bigger. But yeah, he gets the job at Notre Dame, and the first thing he does is throw shade at his alma mater, right? Like, saying I'm so glad I didn't make the same mistake twice. Like what? Like
Wow.
because a lot of people didn't know he was offered the defensive coordinator's job at Ohio State, and he turned it down, and to keep the Notre Dame job with the idea I could get that head coaching position. And so he made the right decision, obviously, but then, he says those, that kind of throwing shade at his alma mater. And then before Ohio State and Notre Dame plays the first time, he makes a comment about, hey, at least our students have to go to class, talking about the fact that a lot of Ohio State students take online courses during COVID. Like, who wasn't, Marcus? Okay, like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever. But a lot of college students take classes online these days, man. That's just the way of the world. I'm sorry Notre Dame is not in the 21st century in that aspect, Marcus. But so that's the second jab he threw at Ohio State, right?
Yep.
And so Ohio State fans we celebrated in the fact that his first game was an L in Ohio Stadium, right? His very first game as a head coach. He walks into Ohio State, did great, coached a whale of a game, right? I think it was 24 to like 10 or something like that. Like by the end of the game, we won comfortably, but close game. Very next season, we go to South Bend, Indiana, and they've got us on the ropes. And for all purposes, they should have won that football game, right?
Mhm.
And we win the game on the last play of the game, running it into the end zone, and he has 10 guys on the field.
Oh yeah,
So
remember that.
Marcus Tin Man was the nickname given to him by Ohio State fans. Well, fast forward to this season. So this is the trifecta now, right? He has an opportunity to get full revenge, stick it to us. And I tell you, I'm a little nervous about that, man. Like all of the revenge factor is on their side right now, right? The underdog revenge. So that's kind of the setting the stage for Bulldog fans on what's happening kind of behind
Yeah.
the scenes between Marcus Freeman and Ohio State and his alma mater. And then you can, if you want to go even further, then you have the whole hilarious aspect of Ryan Day calling out Lou Holtz on national TV.
Oh yeah.
You're right, which has just been an entire thing, a funny thing that people can make fun of. But Ryan Day was asked, "Have you spoke to Lou Holtz since then?" And he says no. And so we still want to know where Lou Holtz is at, right? At least Ryan Day does.
You never know. It might pop up in the next week or so. That'd be funny.
Oh,
So,
it'll pop up.
sounds like Ohio State fans are keeping receipts for Marcus Freeman, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now, would I welcome Marcus Freeman back as Ohio State coach one day if things were to go south with Ryan Day? I would personally, but my co-host Chris Wilds, we call him the Wild Man. He is so anti Marcus Freeman
Hmm.
that next to Jim Harbaugh, Marcus Freeman is enemy number 1A, 1B.
Wow.
So yeah, so there's a lot of Ohio State fans who absolutely will never root for him because of what he said.
Right. Gotcha. That's interesting. So got an interesting question. I actually talked to some. I'm here in Charlotte. Talked to some diehard Ohio State fans, and I know they were a little salty after the Michigan game and Ryan Day. So my big question is it bigger to beat the team from the North who you're 1-4 against? Sorry to bring that up, or win a national title. Which is more important for you?
Right now, it's national title because we're playing in it.
Right.
But last November, it was beating them.
Right.
That's the answer. So I don't know if there is another fan base who could understand what this rivalry means to us. I mean, Alabama fans say, "Oh, the Iron Bowl." It's like, guys, no, it's not even close. Duke fans, North Carolina Duke. Like, okay, I guess in basketball that's a big deal, but
Right.
no, not even close. Uh, Red Sox, Yankees, like, okay, yeah, you guys play each other like 21 times during a season, right? This game between us and the team up north, it is a 365-day thing. We have to live with the constant trolling by that fan base from now until that game is played again next year.
Mhm.
And for us old school fans, like, we understand, given the college football playoff now, the 12-team playoff track, it has changed this rivalry a little bit.
Mhm.
Back in the day, if you lost to them, your season was done.
Yep.
It was over. And then now you have bowl games get introduced as far as more than just one. Old school fans will tell you, man, Michigan, Ohio State, that game, as soon as whoever won that game, you would win the Big Ten, you'd go to the Rose Bowl, the other team, the season was done. Now you have multiple bowl games, but you lose that game, the bowl game still felt kind of like, it was a consolation prize if you didn't win that game. And then the Big Ten championship game gets introduced to it. And so that gave it a little bit of a different feel. Now we have the 12 team playoff. And so has it diluted the game a little bit? I'm going to say, yeah, it kind of feels like it has a little bit. It's not as important as it used to be. And in case in point, we're playing for a national championship. Now, they're going to use that. Their fan base is going to use the fact that they beat us as a chip, if you will, for the rest of the season, whether we win or lose this game. They're going to use that against us, right? We're going to have to take that. But to answer your question, I would say half of this fan base, at least half, is going to say the national championship is important, And that number's only going to get bigger and grow. And we have an entire generation of fans coming up now who look at that game completely different than what my generation or the generations before me do, because to them it's just another game, because college football is NFL light now and it's
Mhm.
all about the playoffs.
Completely agree, but it is, yeah, big time matchup over that as a Thanksgiving weekend, but still huge to watch. And maybe you guys will put it at 3:30 or a night game or at
It's
the
it's
big.
it's always noon.
It's
It's
always
always
new.
been,
Okay.
it's a traditional thing. The
Okay.
only year that they had it at 3:30 was in 2006, and it
Hmm.
was 1 versus 2.
Okay.
And so they moved it to 3:30. I forget the reason behind it. It might have had something to do with Bo Schembechler's passing.
Wow.
I don't remember, but for some reason they had to move it to 3:30. It's always been a noon game. It's kind of a traditional thing, and of course Fox, they want to put every Big Ten game at noon that's important, when we're always like, oh, come on,
Big
man.
noon Saturday.
It's
It's
their
tough on
thing.
the I always feel bad on you guys on tailgate. That's rough.
It is, but at the same time, there is an advantage to it. The players will tell you they love it. They get the game done. They're home. They're already on to the relaxing. They get to eat dinner with their family. They're watching another big game in their dorm or whatever in the
Right.
evening. Like, they love it. Fans, it's nice because you can get home and you can watch the 7:30 game, the 8 o'clock game.
Yep.
That's nice. But yeah, tailgating, it does make it a little bit rough because it's more of like kegs and eggs at that point.
Oh yeah, that is good. Well, we're gonna look at the big time game. So number 7, Notre Dame versus number 8. I believe it's Ohio State, which is crazy. So it doesn't even this kind of makes it the whole 12-team playoffs really interesting now. And all still looking back at all the bye teams, I know that was kind of beat like a dead horse, but all the bye teams losing.
Yeah.
Started out as a 9.5-point spread. It's 8. Notre Dame is banged up coming into it. I know the Love kid, he did get to play some, but I don't think he's 100%. And I think they had some injuries. But all in all, how was the health for Ohio State coming out of the Texas game?
We've got a couple injuries we're keeping our eyes on. JT Tumulau, JTT as they call him, one of our defensive ends. Um, he got banged up in the last game, came back in and played a little bit in the second half. We'll keep our eye on him. Outside of the 2 starters on the offensive line that I mentioned earlier, uh, we're pretty healthy otherwise on offense. I mean, Will Howard got his hand hit pretty good, but it was his non-throwing hand. It swelled up, but he played through the whole game, seemed to play fine, didn't really seem to bother him. Like I said, other than the 2 offensive linemen, I think the offense is doing pretty well. Defensively, we've got some guys who were banged up. Denzel Burke got banged up, left the game, and I don't think he came back. And he's one of our corners, so we'll keep our eye on that one this week and see what his health is like. Um, I think Cody Simon got banged up in that game, one of our linebackers, but he did come back. He seemed like he was okay. But other than that, health pretty good for this team. Now Notre Dame, they are the walking wounded, dude.
Fair.
Their defensive line, they're like on their third string. Some of the places on their defensive line, their offensive line, they've suffered just as many injuries, if not more, than we have. You mentioned Love, the big running back for them. So advantage Ohio State with health.
Mm-hmm. And it's really good. What do you think the matchup with Riley Leonard, who maybe not the best passer, man, but he's just sneaky good on like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 extending drives, and maybe it may be something you guys are maybe worried about on the
Oh yeah,
matchup.
I know personally that's my biggest concern
Yeah.
is this defense has played incredibly well under Jim Knowles this season. He's third
Mm-hmm.
year as defensive coordinator. When he came in 3 years ago, the defense was broken. Kerry Coombs, our former defensive coordinator, it was over his head running a defense. Pretty good defensive backs coach, but running an entire defensive defense was not his thing, and so the defense was pretty broken. Again, hindsight, 2020, not a good hire there. You go back to the 2020 national championship game. That was Kerry Coombs that was getting schooled by Coach Sark as offensive coordinator for Bama there in that game. So and walks Jim Knowles. And if you follow his career, he was defensive coordinator at Duke, and you watched by the third year he was defensive coordinator at Duke, they were really good defensively. He goes to Oklahoma State, was there for 3 years. Third year, he was defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. Really good defense. Comes to Ohio State, has to overhaul the defense. Made some improvements first year. Pretty good last year. Exceptionally this year is in her third year. And this is the most talent he's ever had to coach, had at his disposal. If you ask me who is the best assistant coach in all of college football, I think Jim Knowles might be that guy. He's not a great recruiter. He's not a big rah guy. He's not someone to go hit the recruiting trail. But he doesn't have to really do that. We just want him to sit in the office and be a defensive guru. And that's exactly what he is. That he's not married. He's never bought a home. He lives in an apartment. Like that's just he's an interesting guy. Like he's a vegan. He doesn't eat meat. He's like he just drinks McDonald's coffee and smokes cigars. That's like his life. he's an interesting guy, man. But he is a mad scientist, man. That's like it's who he is. And I love the guy. He's incredibly interesting during interviews when he's interviewed, and he's done a phenomenal job with this defense. I think he's the best assistant coach in all of college football, hands down. And I'm even comparing him to our own offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, who coached in the NFL, was a head coach, at Oregon, and kind of changed the offensive game in football. But I think Jim Knowles, he's the man. Like Jim Knowles will stop Chip Kelly in practice. Like it's just who he is. Like I'll find a way to beat that guy, and he's my own assistant coach on the same team I'm coaching for. So yeah, that to me is who Jim Knowles is. But he's now got to figure out a way to stop Riley Leonard in his legs, because if there's one thing about this defense this season where we've not been the best, it's when a quarterback who can run takes off. It's kind of been the Achilles heel of this defense. You go back to the Marshall game. The Marshall quarterback had like 50 yards rushing or something crazy on us in that game. And it's like, what in the world? How's this guy running on us, So we were a little bit worried about that with Nico from Tennessee. We seem to fix that problem. Of course, getting your helmet cracked by a linebacker will do that to you, I think, and then playing in the cold, but that was really their entire offensive plan. It seemed like for Tennessee was just Nico, go save us, go do something.
Yeah.
If it ends up being that is Notre Dame's go-to is Riley Leonard, go save us, he's going to get ate up. This defense will tee off on him, and giving how they've officiated the playoffs, they're going to let these guys play. And someone like Sonny Styles or Cody Simon or one of our linebackers or Lathan Ransom at safety, they'll crack them. They'll put them on the sideline, and he'll think twice about tucking it and running it in this game. But that being said, that is the one aspect about this defense that concerns me, Trey, when you're looking at the Notre Dame offense.
Yeah, to me, they just don't have any explosive receivers. I mean, they've got, I hate to say, a bunch of jags, just average guys. I mean, they can catch some balls every now and then, but not anybody's going to take it off, take top off the stadium or anything.
No, there's not a Jeremiah Smith on that roster.
Exactly. And then, Eric, give us your prediction, and does Ohio State cover the 8? And what's your prediction on the national title game?
That's an interesting question now. I wasn't prepared for you to have me do a score here. Because I've been thinking about this, like what am I going to go with this? I've boiled it down to two things, Trey. This is either going to be a really, really close football game, or this is going to be a blowout. And if it's a blowout, it's not Notre Dame blowing out Ohio State. We just got too many horses. And I've been leaning more to this being a close game. But the one thing that makes me hesitate in thinking that this could be a 3-point or 6-point game or 7-point game even is the fact that all 3 games in the college football playoff, Ohio State is covered. So if that trend continues, then we're looking at a 2-score win for Ohio State here. And so if you were going to nail me down to a score right now, I would say, somewhere in the ballpark of 28-17,
Mhm.
something similar to that. I usually don't go too far away from what Vegas is saying the point spread should be. Usually they know something I don't know. But then again, Tennessee happened and Oregon happened too. And they didn't say that would be those big of wins too. So we'll see how that line changes. It started out at 9.5. It's come down to 8.5, I think.
Right.
So we'll see. But right now I'm leaning more towards like Ohio State winning somewhere in the ballpark of 10, 11 points right now.
Yeah. Hey, you stole my thunder. That was actually the exact one. The reason I think Notre Dame will hang around, but the injuries, you guys got a great defense and all your explosive receivers, and I think they're not going to be able to shut down Jeremiah Smith 2 straight games. And Will Howard has been hot, so yeah, I agree with that. That 28-17,
The thing to
maybe
keep your eye
31-20,
on,
but they'll cover.
yeah, the thing to keep your eye on. Notre Dame plays a lot of man defensively.
Right.
Tennessee tried that. Oregon tried that. Didn't go so well.
Right.
The thing you got to tip your hat to with Texas defensively was they went to zone. They played zone almost the whole game. And they absolutely said, we are not going to let Jeremiah Smith beat us. I don't know that Notre Dame can do that. They haven't done it all year. And for them to change how they play defensively in the biggest game of the year, to me, that seems like suicide. Like that would be, I just can't see a coach saying, I'm going to do away with something that has worked for me all season long just because of one player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, keep your eye on that. If Notre Dame goes man to man on this thing and they can't hang with Jeremiah Smith early, this could get ugly fast.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Kid's a beast. And I don't see how you guys continue to just reload on all these wide receivers. It must be the Brian is a
Brian
Heartline.
Hartline's a stud, dude.
He is, man.
He's the man. Like
Yeah.
he's got $1 million smile. He loves Ohio State, former Buckeye. He's had so many opportunities to leave, and he just doesn't. At the end of the day, he's like he's got a family. He met his wife at Ohio State. They're Ohio people. They're Central Ohio people. He's got 3 beautiful kids, all in the school system here in Columbus, and he's making over $1 million a year. Coaching receivers. Like, it's a pretty good life, man. And he
Exactly.
made millions in the NFL. It's like the guy ain't hurting for money here. It's like at some point you have to ask yourself, like, what do you want? Like, I guess I'll just stay here and, enjoy my life, right?
Exactly. Sounds like a good setup.
Yeah. And we got another one coming up too. We have another one coming up on the defensive side, man. We have our linebackers coach, right? James Laurinaitis, former Buckeye, 3-time All-American, got in the coaching ranks under Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, came back home to Columbus, Ohio, and he's tearing it up, dude. The linebackers if you ask me which position group from the beginning of the season to the end of the season has improved the most, it's our linebackers. That was our weakness going into the season. It's not a weakness anymore. He's killing it in recruiting. James Laurinaitis is going to be a big name in the coaching world, just like Brian Hartline is.
Nice. It's good to know that. Good to tip a name out there. And then one last question for you, I don't want to keep too long, is what were your thoughts for Ryan Day after the Michigan loss? And if he wins the national title, does he get an extension? What's the pulse on Ryan Day right now as a Ohio State
No,
fan?
he does not get an extension from the OHIO podcast. No. Listen, I was at that game. I left the Horseshoe. And as a fan, I had never felt so dejected in all my life. That you have every advantage in that football game, and you still can't beat that team. I lived through the 90s. I lived through the John Cooper era when he went 2-10-1 in 13 years. against the team up north, how awful that was. My childhood is still to this day
Mhm.
scarred because of that, right? And he's got the nickname here in Columbus, Ohio, is John Cooper 2.0.
Yeah.
But John Cooper will tell you himself, if I had the opportunity to have a 14 playoff, now a 12-team playoff, I had 2, 3 teams that would have ran that table that for some reason couldn't win against that team up north. 1996 was one. 98, they lost to Michigan State, who was coached by Nick Saban at the time, a young Nick Saban. That 98 team was the best team in college football. 96, same thing, best team in college football. John Cooper will tell you to this day, he goes, we would have ran the table with those rosters if we would have had a playoff. And so Ryan Day is kind of living that out here to a degree in front of us. Um, however, when Ryan Day was hired, in his introductory press conference, he stated his words, not mine, his words. I understand my job at Ohio State is to first beat that team up north and then win every game after that. That's what he said. The expectation at Ohio State is to beat your rival more than you lose to them. That's
Mhm.
number one. You have to do that. Win Big Ten titles and national championships after that. Those will come, but you have to beat your rival. And he still hasn't done that. If he wins this national championship, is all forgiven? No, it's not.
Mhm.
Do we build a statue of him outside the horseshoe? No, we don't. He still has to come back and beat that team. Will we celebrate the national championship? You betcha.
Yeah.
Will we be Ryan Day supporters? Yeah. Hey man, go beat them this year, right?
Right.
Like we're not yelling fire Ryan Day anymore. Like the fireryanday.com website hasn't been it's submitted yet, but it's there. Like
Yeah.
it's you know what I mean? Like and if he loses this game and then follows that up with a loss to Michigan next year, his seat's going to be incredibly hot.
Yeah.
He has the best roster in college football. No one's
Mhm.
debating that,
Oh yeah.
right? You lost by 1 point in Eugene, Oregon. Again, it happens. No one's, you already beat them, so all's forgiven there. But you can't lose to that team up north, especially with that team. That was not a good Michigan team. I'm
Oh yeah. I
sorry.
agree. Yeah.
It wasn't. And you laid a complete stinker, man.
Mhm.
Like and you got the Connor Stallion stuff, and it's like, okay, we can maybe forgive you for that kind of stuff. We'll defend you there. But man, this year, bro, come on, really?
Yeah.
Like it's not all forgiven, And some Ohio State fans are going to completely disagree with me, and they're going to be, "What are you talking about? Of course it's forgiven." But I'm telling you, Trey, it's sure as crap, man. He loses again next year, this fan base will turn on him like this because he hasn't done it in 5 seasons.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's the number one thing when you're hired at Ohio State, beat the team up north. Urban Meyer was 7-0. At the Urban Meyer Pint House in Dublin, Ohio, there is a room, a VIP room. Do you know what it's called? The
What's up?
7-0 room.
There you go. Nice. That's awesome.
That's what we do, man.
Yeah.
Jim Tressel, 9-1. 9-1 against them, right? So this narrative, Michigan always beats Ohio State. It's no, they don't. For 2 decades, we've dominated you guys,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
we haven't forgotten that, right?
Yeah.
So we want that feeling back. I want Ryan Day to do that. I want Ryan Day to get that monkey off his back and beat Michigan and learn how to do that. And listen, if he wins the national championship this year and he beats them next year, regardless of what happens in the playoffs next year with Ohio State, all's forgiven, dude. We're back on the Ryan Day bandwagon, man.
There you go. I like it. That's I kind of feel like that's with the Alabama thing with us. 1-6, we got a national title, but it's always going to be that ghost slinging around every time we
Yeah.
play Alabama. So I
And,
definitely
and,
know
and
how
you
that
know
is.
that's a narrative that a lot of people use is they say, hey, listen, Kirby Smart was 1-and-whatever against Nick Satan, as we call him here in Columbus, Ohio.
1-5. Yep.
1-5, right?
Yep.
But no one complains about him. Yeah, but he won national championships.
Yeah.
All right, Urban. So Ryan Day needs to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling, Trey, the further Georgia gets away from those national championships, the more that record against Alabama lingers. It gets bigger, right?
It does.
Same
Yeah.
thing. Columbus, Ohio. Very
Yeah.
very similar.
Oh yeah. Yeah, appreciate that history and breakdown. I didn't know some of that stuff. That was really good, especially about the bar. That's awesome.
Hey, if you're ever in Columbus, Ohio, I'll take you there, brother. It's just down the road from me, man.
There you go. Yeah, that'd be fun. And then, Eric, how do we follow the Ohio podcast on social media and get your content?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. You can follow me. But first, go to our website, theohiopodcast.com, theohiopodcast.com. We have written material there on the website. We've got links to all of our social media and everything else. We have a big Facebook following. We were on Facebook long before we were on the old X here, but you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/the OHIO podcast. You can follow us on Twitter as well at the Ohio Pod, at the OHIO Pod. And of course, if you want to go find us on YouTube, go to youtube.com /the OHIO podcast.
Yeah, man. Give them they got some really great content. Almost looks like close to 5,000 followers on Twitter and over 2,000 on YouTube, which is very impressive.
Thanks, man. We've worked really hard at this, and you'll get there, my man. You just stay the course,
Man.
Just keep throwing content at people, and by all means, we will share this as well. So if any Georgia fans happen to pick this up and they aren't following you, man, we'll definitely tell them to subscribe to your channel, my man.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, if anybody's still around, make sure to like, subscribe, share the Doghouse podcast. I really appreciate you coming on, and good luck to the Buckeyes next Monday.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate you, man.
And it's in Atlanta too. I forgot Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah. There's some history there last time we were there too, huh?
I won't bring that up, but yeah, it was a good New Year's for the dogs. I'll say that. Stressful, but it's good.
Hopefully this game won't come down to a field goal, brother.
Yeah, let's hope not. I still think we got the win, but it reminded me so much of all those Alabama wins. We were the better team. You guys were the better team till the very end. I thought we just found a way to win somehow.
Yeah, we won't bring
got out of there.
Call the back of the end zone. We won't talk about that.
Oh yeah, I got you. But yeah, appreciate you guys coming on. Thanks again. Thanks. Yeah, that was good, man. I appreciate it.
No problem, Trey. I had a good time, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll probably maybe try to have it around Wednesday, and definitely. Are you guys on Instagram at all, or
no? I don't.
Okay, I'll tag you on the Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and everything. And I usually do like little shorts and everything on Instagram. Maybe I'll send that to you.
Perfect. I'll share it. I'll share it, and we'll get it out there on our socials so everybody sees it and finds it, and hopefully it'll be a nice kick for you, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Thanks again, buddy.
All right. Take her easy.
Have a good night. See you.
Yeah. Bye.